what is it that is the easiest path for you that's consistent with what you do best, what you want to do? What would it be like if money wasn't intimidating, it wasn't stressful, and you had plenty of it, and you knew that when you invested, it would be there? Peaceful and peace of mind factor is great. And what that peace of mind does is it gives them financial confidence. When they have financial confidence, where does that come from? That comes from proper guidance, advocacy, and knowledge in which you can bring to them and empower them with. Here's the thing. Imagine if investing didn't have to be stressful. The word stressful stands out to me as where I would normally look on a screen. You don't want someone looking at the negative word different than what the sentence is. So what you want to emphasize is that's something to be said, right? Like you say that, but having it appear because it's broken up, you don't know where their mind goes, and you don't want them to attach to stressful. I like the messaging and the, imagine if investing didn't have to be stressful. Great when you're writing someone something, great in the body of an email, not as a tagline, because again, we don't want to have the negative in the tagline. And look, I'm with you. We want to address what you're not in order to tell people what you are, right? So that I'm not putting you at risk. That's a good thing, because people put their mind towards like, what do they already know, and then compare you to what they already know. And so you saying, what if and imagine if, I like that concept to get people to think beyond that. And then you could even follow it up with like, what would it be like if money wasn't intimidating, it wasn't stressful, and you had plenty of it, and you knew that when you invested, it would be there? What would change in your life? Put them in that place of what it feels like to have peace of mind, and then have them speak from that peace of mind so that they tell you exactly what they need to have happen for them to fill that peaceful portfolio. Because you want to build that for them. It's about asking them the questions where they arrive there, and then they get it. Oh, you see them. You understand their problem. You understand everybody else is trying to sell them risk, and you're trying to sell them peace of mind, which is what they really, really want. Now, part of the reason why people take risk is because they think they have to in order to get return, and they're too far behind. And most people feel behind, and that's what makes them feel stressful. So understanding that when you're talking to them is like, do you feel like you're further along than you expected or further behind than you expected? If you had an unlimited checking account, what would you do with the money? Are you like, you find out what things are preventing them from feeling peaceful, and then your solutions are what help them get there, but have them come to those conclusions because you're the advocate for them. What might seem either obvious or simple to you might be elusively obvious to someone else. It becomes obvious when you point it out, but before you point it out, they're like, I didn't get that. How would you have a conversation with them and have that come through on your website in plain speak, not in advisor speak? To me, get one thing totally dialed in before you do the next. And what we want to figure out is like, what speaks to you? Facebook could work, but is that who you are, and is that what you want to do? Like, let's look at what's your highest impact, lowest cost of your energy, time, and money that can make a difference. One thing I did for referrals was I found a few people and I embed in their community where I'm available for webinars, and I make extra calls to them, and they interview me, or like I have people that they do a lot of. It's easy to get referrals from because they're always communicating with their customers, and then I'm part of that communications process over time. Not as effective on converting, so I had to get better and think of ways that would work. But it was all about like treating myself as the investment, hiring the people that could support me to grow that area, and then moving forward with that. So that's a big piece of this is like, don't pick too many of these lanes. Pick one that makes a ton of sense and really dive into that. Because even when I was doing these interviews with clients, like originally it started with me just doing a teleseminar that someone else would promote. They would introduce me and I would just teach. And they was sloppy. I had to get better over time. Eventually I was like, okay, that content's not going to be the most effective content. What's the more effective content? What's a guide that I could create? You just evolve and you test it out and you change one thing at a time to go, oh, that was more effective or less effective, and just like really dedicate 75% of your time that goes to marketing towards this one area that gives you that one-to-many multiplier. What's your main content point of why someone would want to listen and what value it provides to them? Again, what's the highest impact, lowest cost thing? A quiz can be high impact and low cost, but people aren't really going to accidentally find it. You need to bring it to them in so many ways. And this is what IP DNA is like, who are you? How do you go about, creating the best version of who you are? And instead of being like, oh, I heard someone's doing well on the podcast, I'm gonna do a podcast. Oh, I heard what someone's doing well on YouTube, I should do YouTube. It's like, maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't. A, are you going to enjoy it? And B, are you going to have some degree of skill that you could develop over time that gives you an advantage? And I think that, again, this is picking your one-to-many multiplier. What's one thing that you could do now that gives you efficiency with your customer, so it's not just one-on-one, but it's one-to-many? Is it writing a white paper, or a consumer awareness guide? Is it writing a book? Is it a video course that you could do? Is it, a video? Like, what is it that you could start answering questions or asking over and over again, so that it's not having to be done every time manually, but it's something that gets done automatically or through the very best foot forward? Like, I feel like if someone reads my book, like you held up Killing Sacred Cows, we have a different level of where we could take it because they already have an idea of who I am and what I stand for. Think of it like, what do you teach? Like, peace of mind is part of it, but what are the things that you teach that they're not going to learn about unless you teach them? And is there 3 steps, 5 steps, 7 steps? Figure that out and write an article to begin with. That article could become a speech. That article could become a webinar. But like, I wrote this thing called the 5 things that every business owner should do in a tough economy. And like, number 1, stop funding your retirement plan. Number 2, give your very best person a raise. Number 3, take part of what you're putting in your retirement plan and increase your skill set in an area where you're deficient that would help you be more effective. So I had these things, and that booked me gigs on major TV networks, and that booked me, it started to become a speech that I could start to give because it was 5 things that no one else was really talking about that was close to my brand. So to create a peaceful portfolio, what are the steps? What is the framework? How do you teach that framework? What role does the quiz play in that framework, right? What's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? What are the steps that people take that if they have that, they're going to have a peaceful portfolio? What does it protect for them? What are the risks if they don't have a peaceful portfolio? Think through that. And that's what the raw ingredients of everything you do come from, that aspect and that framework. Like, think about it. Like, you don't want to, like, I read so many articles that are blah, blah, blah. Like, Yahoo Finance has the same articles said 5 different ways. It's always, invest early. Put your money in a diversified portfolio. Talk to an advisor. It's always the same garbage, no matter what the question is. So where can you speak out? Because you're a veteran, you're an athlete, because, what is your background and what's your personal story, and how does that inform what you'd be teaching them about, so that it's like the people that relate to you really relate to you. Not everybody's going to. That's fine. You want to push the people away that don't belong, so you're investing time with the people who do, because what you're talking about resonates with them. Number 1 is, I would start writing. Whether you publish the writing or not, writing is going to be the access to your content. That could turn into a video, that could be turning into a webinar, that could be turning into an in-person speech, but writing is where you're going to refine your ideas. So you could write down questions that you answer. Put yourself in your customer's shoes, write down questions they have. How would you answer that? What are the biggest problems that people face? What are the biggest mistakes that people make? What are the biggest myths that people buy into? Like, you see the patterns, as you just got to look and say, how do you see the world different? And what does that mean to the person? And sometimes you might handwrite these things. Sometimes you might type them up. But if you got in the habit, like you just said, all right, I'm going to write 500 words a day. I'm going to write 1,000 words a day. I'm going to just look at the world and say, what do I see that people are missing? What do I see where I could help? Where are people not feeling peaceful? Where are people stuck in their finances? You ask these questions and you write the answers. And those answers become things that you might find yourself talking about in your customer meetings. If that's happening frequently, you've got a piece of content, if they're responding well to that, that could be put into a newsletter, a video, a speech that you give either on stage or virtually, or an article that you write that then goes to them in between the appointment. You just have to think about what the medium is. But writing is the access to all of it. And you don't have to be a writer. This could just be for you to have an exercise of putting pen to paper so that you can know what to talk about. You always, if they feel that way, you always have to give a damaging admission. What is it that would make this product not work? And if you can't clearly tell them that, they're going to have a hard time trusting you. So if they feel like it's too good to be true or it's a unicorn, it's because you haven't clearly identified what would make this less than ideal. Like if you're in a fixed indexed annuity, what's less than ideal? A bull run. You have to let them know what the issues are That's called a damaging admission. Without a damaging admission, there's a lack of trust. And it's basically, if you're getting someone that says it sounds too good to be true, it's because you're doing too much time describing the benefits and features of a product and not enough time asking them questions and getting to know them. There's 4 types of readers instead of saying people don't read. There's the people that want bullet points and highlights. There's the people that read every word. There's the people that only want to read the stories and the entertaining pieces. And there's the people that just want to read about whoever wrote the book or who wrote the article. So you got to also realize they're bombarded with a lot of stuff. So there's just a lot of reading that isn't interesting. And the writers need to do a better job. So you know what people read is a children's book. And they read it over and over again. So the mindset that you have is maybe people aren't reading books cover to cover, but there's people listening to more podcasts and listening to more audiobooks. So it's the format you have to start considering and ask, how does the person want to take in the content, not how do you want to present the content? So look, I'm a better writer than I'm a reader. Like reading Killing Sacred Cows. It was fast, it was tedious, I wasn't good at it, so I had to hire someone to train me so that Money Unmasked will be a better listen. But a lot of people would rather listen than read, and that's fine. It's just, it takes a different skill set. So, Dan Sullivan, a strategic coach, talks about people are reading more of his books now because he's shortened his books. And that's the thing, is a book can seem intimidating in a really busy world, and there's a lot of competition for our time. Rather than judge, there's not a lot of readers out there, ask, how do your customers want to digest content, and how do you make it bite-sized so that they're more likely instead of making it too overwhelming up front? But writing is going to be the gateway to your content. Questions are going to be the gateway to having more detail. And what you're going to find is the more you write, the more people are like, how are you so articulate? I'm articulate because I write a lot. I became a better speaker through writing. When you write, you learn how to trim the fat. You learn how to say something more clearly. You learn how to be more elaborate when it's needed and visual and vivid. Like you can explore all that versus being one-dimensional. Whether it's the copy for your website, whether it's how you correspond with your customers, whether you're going to take time to really figure out what your content is and then figure out the format of the content. Video, audio, workbook, articles, stage. Then you start figuring out how you disseminate that in a way that's consistent with who you are. Look at your client journey. What do they struggle with? What are they always asking about? What should they ask about they don't know how to ask about? What are their biggest concerns? What are their biggest liabilities? What are their biggest, start asking these questions and it becomes content. Half of my blogs came from when people came and did a one-on-one immersion with me. And I was like, I need to write a blog about this. This is a big issue. And I think I could learn from writing it and it will be really helpful to share with this person. You got to it's exhausting to try to put people into your business. You need to become a better marketer so it doesn't matter. And when you don't need their business in any way, shape, or form, you'll get more of them to do business with you. The problem is, you can smell it and feel it that you might be able to help them, but they smell it and feel it that you want to help them. They feel that. Like I remember when I got married, I was like, oh, look, I'm going to invite tons of people because a lot of these people know I'm in finance now, and maybe I'll make a bunch of them clients. I should have just been celebrating my wedding, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking there's prospects there. Now, nobody's a prospect. People are just people. Sometimes I invite them into my world, and sometimes I'm invite them into working with me, and it's just an invitation. If it's a fit for them, great. If it's not, that's fine too. But it's like my inner circle, I don't really ask them. They have to approach me in order for it to happen. So that pressure's completely off. And I can just focus on them and see them and hear them and support them. And I get a lot of referrals from them, I think, because of that, because I've never really pushed anything onto them or said, hey, I'm available. Sometimes I'll just give them free advice. And then if they want more, I'm like, hey, I can give you free advice all you want. You'll end up disappointed because there's not going to be accountability. There's not going to be the full support. If you want to go deep on this, this is what it looks like. It's up to you. How could I serve you best? That's the reality of it. It's about quality and delivery, not about attention span. Sure, Snapchat and TikTok have used more short-term vignettes of things, but that's because people are scrolling through something, not necessarily doing a deep dive into something. Someone has cancer, their attention span to solve cancer is through the roof. If someone doesn't have cancer, people have no attention span of solving it probably because it doesn't relate to them. So you have to look at the proximity of the situation. And then just look at your languaging. When you say stuff like, I'm probably a mindset thing here, or, people have this, like we say definitive statements, but half of it's programmed into us because it's been regurgitated by someone else. And then we look and go, oh, there's evidence. Like people don't watch my videos for that long. Well, how interesting are the videos? How good is the hook? How quality is it compared to the other things that are out there? Yeah, there are people that want to be educated, but more people want to be entertained. So how can I make this education more entertaining? So that's what part of the process in the plan is. I think you're doing this because you choose to do it. So it's about finding the work that you love most in it, and then marketing that, not choosing the best marketing platform that you don't love, and then doing things that you hate because you think it was going to be effective, but you run out of energy for. Hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And if you're enjoying these videos, well, there's good news. More where that came from, so go ahead and click through and watch the next video now.